Rayat Shikshan Sanstha, Yashwantrao Chavan Institute of Science, Satara. I give a warm welcome to all of you on the occasion of one-day workshop on entrepreneurs in a campus, which is organized by Entrepreneurship Development Committee of Yashwantrao Chavan Institute of Science, Satara. To begin with, I request Dr. P.V. Chavan sir, the chairman of Entrepreneurship of Yashwantrao Chavan Institute of Science, Satara, to give an introduction and welcome our today's resource person.
Good morning, one and all. Today we have organized one-day workshop on entrepreneurs in campus. Honorable Chief Guest of this function, Mr. Saurabh Wathare, co-founder and CEO of Wathare Infotech Solutions Satara, Mr. Aniket Dhanwat, co-founder and CTO of Wathare Infotech Solutions Satara, Honorable President of this function, Honorable Principal Dr. B.T. Yadav sir, Director of Vice Institute of Science Satara, Honorable Vice Principal of our institute, Dr. Viva, all EDCL committee members, as well as all students of BSc 3rd Computer Science, BHope, Animation Science, and BCS and Electronics. Today, we have organized the one-day workshop on entrepreneurs in campus. As we know that in today's scenario, there is a need to start our own business, and that will be fruitful to carry out a new system. Here, in this case, at UIDSC level, we have to await the student to start their startup from their ideas. And here, with us, two our alumni of our institute who have completed their 12th from our junior college. They have completed their engineering and now they have started their own business. And we know that in COVID-19 pandemic, we have observed that only the businessmen who will give the opportunity to the people to start. So in this context, we have to motivate the students at UIBSC level, as well as we have to convert their idea into prototype, as well as from the resource person, we have to take the opportunity, how they have built up their business. And in this regard, we have today organized this one-day workshop. First of all, I will welcome all the both chief guests as well as the president of this function, Honorable Vijay Deshpande sir, and I will welcome as well as introduce the today's chief guest, Mr. Saurabh Wathare, who is co-founder and chief executive officer of Wathare Infotech Solution, that is cloud-based software services in Satara MIDC. Sir has completed their 12th from our college in 2011. Then Sir has completed their engineering from Pune Vidyarthi Graha College of Engineering and Technology in Electronics and Telecommunication. After that, he has started their startup, and they have started their first venture with classmate in the 3rd year of engineering. So at the stage of their education, Sir has started their first venture. And then today, Sir is working in consumer software, smart home, domestic IoT, digital factory, industrial IoT, And sir has even given in the principal's cabin the demo of their software. So definitely, sir will guide us on the basis of how the entrepreneurs will start, how they are thinking at their QIBSc level, as well as how we will start our startup. Then another guest with us, Mr. Aniket Ganwat, co-founder and uh, Chief Technical Officer of Water Infotech Solution. Sir also completed that 12th from our college at 2011, and after that, sir has completed their engineering from computer science from Vachan Engineering College, Sangli. So while doing their engineering, he explored the upcoming technique like virtual reality, machine learning, and influencing the algorithm. And sir has also started their startup in next generation technology and cooperative career with Veritas, global leader in data storage software. So it's a strong biodata and two eminent uh, entrepreneurs with us. So on behalf of entrepreneurship development cell, I welcome both the resource person of today's workshop. Then with this brief introduction of today's chief guest, today with us Honorable Dr. Vivek Deshpande sir for president of this workshop, vice principal of our institute, sir having almost 30-year teaching as well as research experience, and sir uh, guided for PhD as well as MPhil student, and sir also having a very good research as well as teaching experience, not only our academic, but sir having very good information regarding the entrepreneurs. So, first of all, I will welcome all these dignitaries on the dais and uh, thank you one and all. And again, I will welcome all the students who have gathered here physically, as well as all students who have joined online mode for attending this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Right now, may I request our honorable honorable vice principal of Yeshwantrao Institute of Science to felicitate our today's guest of honor, Mr. Saurabh Watkare, sir, who is the co-founder and CEO of Watkare Infotech Solutions, Satara. Again, I request vice principal, sir, to felicitate our next guest of honor, Mr. Aniket Ganwat, sir, co-founder and CEO of Watkare Infotech Solutions, Satara. Thank you, sir. I request Dr. B.B. Chauhan, sir, to felicitate our vice principal, Dr. B.Y. Deshpande, sir. Thank you, sir. I request our vice principal, sir, to give a presidential speech.
Respected Principal Dr. B.T. Zarov sir, who is busy with some work, chief guests of today's function, Mr. Watkare and Mr. Ganwat, Sawan sir, who is the organizing chairman of this particular activity, all the faculty members present over here, and your students. So I think this pair of chief guests is the youngest chief guest pair in the college this year. And so let's give them a big hand. Right from my student days, chief guests were old people with white hair and their stooping posture and so forth. And these two chief guests are the youngest pair. So and they have achieved something. They are here as chief guests because they have made a career out of their life. They have done the hard work, and they are in the process of becoming famous. So this is the first step. So we are inviting them over here. And this is a very nice thing, and I hope some of the members sitting over here should take something out of the leaf out of their book, and maybe in 2 or 3 years they'll be chief guests over here. So there are so many participants online as well as offline. A very nice opportunity for the students to understand. I hope they'll give in brief how they have come reach this particular place. As you have heard in the introduction, they are students of Vice Institute. Standard 12th, were both, and I'm sure they are classmates, and so they have worked hard, and how the journey from Vice Institute to this level happened. So you'll all get to understand the first-hand experience. And it so happens that I was just asking him who is Mr. Vatare from MIDC, and he's my classmate. So his father is my classmate, and he is also a student of this college. And we enjoyed the college, the old college that you see right now after the demolition of the building, the C type of M building, where his father and me, we studied over here, and the total strength of the college was 500, 11th standard to BSc 3. So a small place, and I'm very happy that his son is over here as a chief guest, and also I feel it say honored to welcome him as a chief guest. So I'll not take much time. I hope the students have an interactive session. You must interact and you must ask questions. You must get your doubts cleared regarding entrepreneurship and how to go about the business. You have two individuals who have done the thing, and it will be a very nice thing if you get it first hand, because it may save some time for the participants. Maybe they have struggled and they have come up with some problem, they have overcome the problems, and if you are having the same problems, okay, you are getting the problem solved simply by asking them a few questions. So I hope this will be an interactive session and you have a very good time. So once again, on behalf of the college, I welcome everybody and wish you all the best for the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, it's very informative and good opportunity to all the students. After that, I request our today's guest to start the next session.
Good morning to everyone. What an interesting time it is. When I was in this college, there was a ground rule, there was a basic thumb rule that no phones and no laptops will be allowed inside the campus. And today the entire campus has to be run by a smartphone or a laptop per se. So there are about, I think, 80, 90 students online who have attended this session. I'm very privileged to be talking to you. I'm not saying I'm guiding you all every now and then. It's just our experience and what we wanted to share with you. It's the very title of this presentation. It's just the general notes on entrepreneurship. It is no lecture, it is no talk show, it is nothing. It is just what we observe and what we wanted to share with you. As Dr. P.V. Chavan, he gifted us 2 books. It is probably the most interesting gift to give a person. It is a book. So the gift that I have received, it is a book on late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So he was probably the most interesting teacher because he believed in taking the understanding the root cause of the student and guiding him in the process of solving that specific problem. So it is the very core crux of the entrepreneurship. And the book that Aniket has received, I also checked his book. I wanted to make sure that we don't have the same content. And he naturally has a different book. The title of that book is Shivaji, a Great Engineer. And probably Maharashtra has the greatest culture of entrepreneurship because of Shivaji Maharaj. And his idea of foundation of Swarajya, it is the first idea of starting a startup, in my opinion. Right, so he had his own CEO, CTO, CXO level authority positions. It was the first ever experiment in driving the government using the executive offices, and that was the foundation structure of that Shivaji Maharaj had laid. So very interesting books. Thanks a lot, Yashwantrao Chavan College, to give us the books, and we'll make sure that we drive some value out of it, and make sure that we drive it to the next generation also. So the general notes on entrepreneurship is the basic session title. So can we move to the next one, please? So why do we work? I want this session to be a communicative session and interactive session. So I hope English and Marathi, both languages, are comfortable for everyone. English, because it is a language of the globe right now, it is a language of programming, and many of you are coming in from the backgrounds of computer sciences and animations and so on and so forth. So let's put this in some level of English, but we'll also try to communicate in Marathi also. So can anyone volunteer to answer this question, why do we work? Anyone? Even teachers can participate in this, I think. Basic rule number 0 of entrepreneurship is you have to lose all your shame. You have to stand up and you have to start selling yourself. So that is the rule number 0. Before we even get to the point number 1, you have to address this rule number 0. You have to drop every shame of yours and you have to stand up and start communicating. Unless you start communicating, you lose the opportunity of establishing yourselves away from the crowd. So, given this context, now why do we work? Yeah, please. Okay. To achieve dreams. So we have the first answer. What's the second? Fine. So can we go to the next slide? So entrepreneurship invites change. So when you live in a society, when we interact with someone, or when we interact with an institution or an organization, let's say, so we think that this can be changed, and I have an idea, so I can drive that change, and I can make sure that this system functions in a much different way, and it could be a smarter change. So entrepreneurship gives us an opportunity to make sure that the systems, the things in general, can get smarter, can get better in their operative areas, and so on. Next. So why do we start up? Next. So startup gives us a scale, right? So Aniket sir, Chavan sir had already introduced him. I'll give all of you his quick background. So Aniket is a very niche type of an engineer. He is an operating systems engineer. So there are about only 1,000 engineers or so who do what he does. And he previously used to work in Veritas. So Veritas is the world's largest software developer of data storage systems. So every time you lose a server of Airtel, let's say, so Aniket's software made sure that there was another server taking the backup and making sure that the entire system functioned the way it should. So it was his ideas and it was his products that he delivered to many customers of that scale, of Airtel scale. So you get the idea. Today he is working with Amazon. And at Amazon, he is working on the smart home and the smarter operating systems that Amazon is building for their own future devices. So you might be knowing about the Amazon smartphone experiment, right? So in 2014, Amazon launched their own Fire phones, and those Fire phones failed miserably because those phones couldn't compete with iOS, those phones couldn't compete with Android. So Amazon is having a shot at it again, and this time they have engineers like Aniket who are working from India. They have about team size of about 20 engineers or so. Aniket will patch you in. So 20 engineers are driving the entire operating system's core crux of innovation. So, and why is Aniket working in Amazon even though he has a stable future here also? That is because he has the ability to look at it from the Amazon scale. So Amazon, as most of you probably be knowing, it is the world's largest valued company at about 1.1 or $2 trillion. So they have huge scale. So that's about two different Reliance companies merged together. That's one Amazon. So he can operate it at scale. He can drive. He can make sure that operating system that he will make is going to be shipped on 1 million devices in the next year. There is next part of growth. Growth can be your personal growth, it's social growth, it's organizational growth. So given the startup, you have the decision maker ability, and you can drive growth not just for yourself but for your company, your employees, and so on and so forth. You get to be very creative, right? So you might have heard about it from a lot of engineers who are working in conventional IT companies. So there is not a very creative culture. So they don't investigate into ideas, they don't fund ideas. But as a startup, your entire story lies around creativity. So you have to cut costs. So how do we cut costs without losing any of the employees? So that's the basic creativity challenge that you have to face in the month one of your startup career. And the last part is having independence. So having an independent career where you have the option whether do you want to work on a project or you don't want to work on a project is a very interesting fact, and you will have a very illustrious career with this independence. So my notes are beginning now. I'm unprepared, let's say, for this my viva, I will call it as it is. It has been about 4 years since I appeared for an exam in front of so many teachers. And the last exam I had attended, I won't say I performed really very well. So I came in prepared this time. I brought in my notes. So I hope you will all be fine with it. So I have put just the title on the slideshow. I don't want you all to be reading and to be engaging with the slideshow. I want you all to be communicative with me. So there will be just the title, and then there will be me talking. If you want me to stop talking, you can just raise your hand, or if we have a Zoom feature to drop in a message or something, we can have that also. And may I also request, sir, that if possible, we can also conduct polls in between, so that Aniket can suggest a subject for a poll, and we can get a gist of it, what the audience is thinking on what I'm saying. So the very basic structure is the idea. So what is the value of an idea? Can anyone put a metric to what an idea's value is? Anyone? So you might be having some friends who have been working in the industry, or who might be having some jobs in the conventional IT industry, and they will all say one thing. ये फ्री चार्ज का मैंने 3 साल पहले सोचा था, ये पेटीएम का मैंने 10 साल पहले सोचा था. So there is this metric when the idea gets really huge, right? So the value gets assigned to it when the idea becomes very successful. And when you ask किती त्यावेळी का नाही केलं, then they get like माझं career, माझे options, माझे family, माझे priorities. So idea, discussing it with many people is always of a great essence. We always think that what I think, what my ideas are very unique in their own, for their own good, and I won't be sharing them with anyone. So my first note on this is someone already had your idea. So stop justifying that you are the first innovator of this idea or this domain or this industry that you are thinking of. So to put this into a different perspective, Google was about 13th or 20th search engine in the market, but it also made sure that it is the last search engine in the market. Facebook, before Facebook, there were a lot of successful social media. So there were Friendster, there was MySpace, and so on and so forth, and they all failed, but Facebook remained. So Facebook, given the fact that it was not the first social media, it was targeted with plagiarism and all those things, but it survived, and it made sure that it is not the first, but it is the last product that you will be using. So sharing your ideas with n number of people is always going to give you a different dynamic of how that idea can grow and how you can achieve greatness with that idea. Idea is just 1% of your entire success. 99% is execution and your team in general. So many successful products or many successful startups today that we can call them. They were something else in the very beginning of their entry paths. So Instagram, you all might be using Instagram today, but Instagram wasn't the same thing as we use it today on the day one. So Instagram was a check-in application. So you could just say, I've checked into Hotel ABC. So that was the entire product of Instagram. Then they changed it to pinging hotel photos along with the check-ins, and then they dropped the hotel part entirely and just moved it to the photo sharing aspect of it. So idea is just 1% of the entire success. The 99% has always been the Instagram's core driving components, their founders and their teammates. You don't need to bother a lot about idea. Even if you don't have one, even if you think you will find one on the way, you can just jump into it, and you can just make sure that the winds take you to the right shore. Team is always greater than the idea. The product is always greater than the idea. So we all need to put our egos aside, and we need to discuss openly what our ideas are, and how fruitful they can become in the later phases of the company's future. Besides the idea, there is an important factor that we always underestimate and undervalue. It is having the right luck. So luck plays a very important role, right place at the right time. So this has to be there if you are trying something new or trying something exceptional or upcoming in the market. Aniket has a few devices here that we would love to demo for you. So those devices are a sort of futuristic, but not really futuristic. So it's just the right kind of balance that we are trying to make here. And we'll get into the demo part in the later phases of this talk. Sir, can we move on to the next slide, please? Right. So the next part, just after the idea, it is finding the right team. Me and Aniket, we are a team because not only we went to the same high school, but we have very morphing skill sets, right? So I can be the salesman and he can be the technical backbone, and I can trust him entirely on the technical diversity that we want in our product that we are going to be building. And he, at the same time, he can also justify me being a salesman, and we can rely on each other on our sort of capabilities. But we also need someone else, as Deshpande sir rightly said. My father and he were classmates, and most of the chief guests that you get are pretty old people. So today, even for this talk, my father was supposed to be present here, but at the last minute, he said, I don't think I shouldn't even get here. You guys are young, you guys should inspire other people to start up on their own. So he just dropped in at the last minute. But he gets the marketing part, right? So it is the most he is the most experienced teammate for us, and he does the marketing ideation and we do the execution. So we have the right balance. We have the right balance of experience and enthusiasm. So that is something that you need to figure out. And college is a really great place to begin with. So we pitched in our product to principals sir earlier, and he was also very welcoming about our ideas, and he wants to demo some of our products to some of the students who might be potential users of them. So you need to discuss openly with everyone that you come across. So second thing is who are going to be your first employees. So you can't do everything all by yourself. You will be needing some people to take this ship further. So first employees are as important as your first founders. So our first employees, we made sure that we'll train them, we'll groom them, we'll make them what we are, and we'll be able to delegate our tasks to them. Roles and responsibilities need to be cleared out on day one of the career of the company. So roles and responsibilities are something that you can attach it to the specific skill set of that person. So in this context, you don't need to know everything to make sure that you are able to sell a product or you are able to build a product. I don't know which operating system Aniket writes in, which is the language specifically in which he works, but I know the end result and I know it can be a sellable system as a whole. So that's enough for me. I think I don't have to do the technical inspection and the dissection of what program he has written. So the that is the most important aspect of it. The hardest job is always going to be recruitment and finding the right talent. And to find the right talent or find the right teammates, your college is the best place to even start with. So you have an abundant manpower, abundant talent available here. You can just talk to your seniors, you can just talk to your juniors, and they will give you a gist of it, of how they look at like finding a career in your company or in your organization. So starting from your college is a very important aspect of it. Second part is most important, communication. Having the clarity of thought amongst the founders and the employees. So when I said we'll have the session bilingual, let's say English and Marathi. So Marathi, because we have the greatest clarity of thought in our mother tongue. So whenever we think of something, we think of it in Marathi, and whenever we want to execute it, we want to execute it in English. So we have to be very communicative with people. Like I said, the rule number 0 before the point number 1. It is you need to drop all your shame and you need to stand up and speak. So once you lose the crowd fear or the stage fright, as people say, you really start to get in the groove, and you really need, you start opening up your eyes. So next. So this is the most important aspect of it, the funds. How do we raise money? How do we basically get going when your college friends, your classmates are getting paid salaries, you are not going to get paid. So funds is the most important aspect when it comes to life in general. I'm not philosophical, I'm just being practically basically fulfill everything. So we always undervalue finance, and we sometimes overvalue finance. We always say, I don't have any money, or I don't have any financial support at the moment, so I will just not start a business. But there are great financial institutions like your friends and family, right? So your friends and family are going to be your first investors. They are going to be the first believers of your product. They are going to put in a lot of money. You just have to put a price tag to it, and they'll pour money into your ideas. You just have to be vocal about it. So when you need money, you just ask your friends and family, and they'll be your guide and support to fulfill your requirements. Second part is, as we were discussing with the principal sir, so he said that there are a lot of government institutions and bodies who are visiting our colleges, and most of them are Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Yojana, Mukhyamantri Swayam Rozgar Yojana. So those are very interesting schemes and fundraising options available at your perusal. When you need any money, you don't need any collateral at this point of time. You just need a very strong project report and your futuristic plans. So funds will just follow you. Funding is just the start. So funding, getting right amount of money is not going to take you anywhere. You still need to execute it with full perfection, and be confident when you ask for money. So that's the most important tip that I want to add. So when we visit a bank, we have to make sure that we are 100% confident that I need this money, and if I don't get this money, I can't begin my work altogether. So funds is, I think, covered. So next part is execution. So you have the money, you have the team, you have a product in your mind now, and you want to get going on the building phase of it. So as I think most of us are from the software backgrounds or the software engineering background, let's put it in that way. So software, we have a great advantage. We don't need any raw material, we don't need any inventory. We just need a computer, and we just need our free mind. So that's the only raw material inventory that we need. Thank you. Right. So this is another making me smarter appliance. Thank you very much. So execution, we first plan out what is the most important thing. So our most important thing has always been driving the innovation at our own company, and make sure that our products are far more superior when it comes to technology aspect of it. We make uh, we make a timeline, we make different milestones, as we have recently started. So we put a timeline tag to it. Now that we don't have to put a price tag to it, we put a time tag to it, right? So Aniket was just telling me earlier that we had a timeline of about 12:30 p.m. So how much time do we have in our hands at the moment? Because he naturally has different agendas planned after it. So we always add a time milestone to everything that we do. Today is the most important thing has been the this session of ours, but we have assigned a time value to it, right? So you also need to start doing it. When you start a football match, you don't need a court. Naturally, you do need a court. You do need a football, but a match won't begin unless you have a clock in your hand, right? So you have to put a 90-minute tag to it. So after 90 minutes, the play is going to stop and the winner is going to get decided. So when you start working, you need to put a time tag to it. Second part about execution is the job profile. So our job profile has varied from a board member to a sweeper, right? So we have done everything that a company has, company's roles have to offer, and we have no shame in doing anything. So the second part is the focus. Aniket, given his Amazon background, they have a lot of different philosophies of leadership, right? So there are about, I think, 17 principles of leadership. I would request Aniket to give you an idea of how Amazon operates. So Amazon never plans for this quarter. Amazon's managerial reviews are never for this quarter. They will always ask you about what's our plan for next year, this quarter, right? So they are always thinking of 4 quarters ahead on their timeline. So that is a very important execution tip. I would ask Aniket to give you an idea of Amazon's leadership principle. So the next part, now that you have started executing your ideas, you have a solid team, you have enough funds to survive the product building phase. So the next part is the most important part. It is the market and the marketing part of it. So as we said, as I mentioned, the two examples. One was the social search engine Google, and the second one was the social media, the Facebook. So both of them were the last mover and not the first mover. People always think that the first mover is going to get a lot of advantage, being the entry level driver of these things. But in general, the last mover gets the most interesting advantage because he has seen all the failures of the people who have tried and attempted all these things before him. So always try to be the last mover in an industry and will make sure that no other competitor is going to even try to enter this market, right? So Amazon's another principle that I know of is being a monopoly in what they do, right? So whenever Amazon is selling something, you will make sure that Amazon is the cheapest seller of all those products, and they will make sure that they are the monopoly in that specific zone. Uh, Another question is about market. Answer why now. So we have a few smart home products here. So we have begun by asking this question, why now? So why now is the most important question. And if you are justifying your own self by answering that question, why now, I think you will be able to find the right market fit. Next part is about the competition. So whenever we think of competition, we feel skeptical about addressing those issues to begin with, because competition is something that people will start crushing you when it comes to market. And let's say I'll give an example of Jio versus Idea. So Idea was forced to merge with Vodafone. That's how the fierce this competition really was. But again, having competition is a very strong and a very positive sign, because nobody will want to remain in a market where there is no market, right? So having competition means that there is a huge market and people are already trying to compete for a very small pizza slice. So you are this is a very positive sign, having a great competition. Unless you have a inferior product, you don't have to worry about anyone. We are conducting this session live on Zoom. So Zoom is a relatively newer product. So Facebook had an opportunity to do the same. Google had an opportunity to do the same, but we are hosting these sessions on Zoom. I think this is the very definitive of what a product's quality means for your customers. So we are the customers of Zoom here, and we are not preferred anything of Facebook and Google families. We have something else apart from these conventional giants. So next part is money and risk. So money is, as we can say it in a philosophical way, money is just a form of validation, but you do need that validation to make sure that the startup is worth doing it for. So you need to put in very basic risks, right? So your classmates will be getting paid, you won't be getting paid. So that's the very basic risk of it. A very important thing about money and risking is you need to expect money really very late. So Amazon, when it started, or Google when it started, it was the early or the mid 90s. They survived the dot-com crash, and then they started making a lot of money. I think Amazon is still not making that much money. They just start investing into it. So they don't enjoy the benefit of their sales. They start investing into other innovation and other cultural changes that they have always wanted to try. So before I say expect money very late, we need to also plan and assess the chances of getting paid very late, right? So it shouldn't be the case that you have put in about 5 years or 10 years of your lifetime and still not getting anything out of it. So that's a mistake. I think you should start really assessing what you are doing right now, and you should take planned risks in general. So meet any life insurance advisor or any LIC healthcare insurance advisors. They'll put a price tag to your lifetime, right? So they'll give you an idea of how important your time is, how important your 1 year is, how important your 1 month really is, and they'll put a price tag to it. So you will really need understand how important you really are. So the next important part is success. I think your faculty is way more efficient at giving you the idea of success than me. But there is a very short list: money, status, impact, network, fulfillment, visibility, experience, appreciation, and the most important part, in my opinion, is the legacy, right? So Tata's is the most respected brand in the country because they do a legacy business. So our grandparents also used the Tata products, our parents' generation also used the same, and even our generation is also very trustworthy customer of Tata Group. So money is in general just the byproduct. You also need to gain all these different parameters and factors in general. So I won't spend a lot of time in success because that will be just the daydreaming aspect of it. So I'll pause on the success part. Most important are tools. So what tools are at your disposal? You need to find, you need to understand how do we use those tools. So when you build something, not necessarily you have to build everything, right? So our customers are from the industrial as well as commercial domains. So they have an option to build everything, but they buy from us. So you can also follow this practice. You don't have to build everything. You can buy or rent a lot of great stuff from a lot of global companies. So you get a lot of different tools for free. You get a lot of different tools for very cheap. So I think our college campus has a very fine 3D printing facility. So you can just rent it from the college. You don't have to build everything on your own. You don't have to invest a lot of raw materials. You don't have to put in a lot of money at trying out different variations of actual physical products. You can just rent from our college only. I think that's a feature that's available for everyone in the campus. Or I think in Satara in general, that's a feature that's available. There are two different concepts called first one is the business model canvas. So you need to Google what a business model canvas is to understand it. So there is an Excel sheet that's available. Excel, I know it's a very convenient and a conventional tool, but it's a very efficient tool at the same time. So just start filling in the business model canvas, and you will start asking more questions than you have probably the answers for. So start business model canvas, and second is the value proposition. So what value do we add for our customer when we build something or when we create something? So that is also an interesting part, and that assessment or that very validation can be done from third party tools. That third party tool can be, let's say, Facebook also. So you can just post a download link to your app on the Facebook, and you can just ask people for reviews. So that's just free marketing, at the same time free validation of your product and service. So these tools are very important and free of cost available for us. So we need to make sure that we are utilizing every single thing that's available. So the next part is how to software in general. Many of us are coming in from technology backgrounds. So I think we have PCS, BSc Computer Science, and animation domains for our like attendees today. There are about 100 attendees and I think about 40 odd students in this hall. So we can say that at about 50 students will be from each zone. So can you do this session? So I'll ask Aniket to do this session because I think he's a very technology driven person, and he himself believes in making our own lives smarter, and that is the only reason why we started with the smart home and the industrial IoT projects. If possible, give them a brief idea about what we do in the industrial IoT also, and the smart home demo if possible. So I'll hand over to Aniket now. As I mentioned earlier about his background, he is currently working in the Amazon. He had to take a leave today just to make sure that this session can be made possible. So I really appreciate Aniket being here to guide you more importantly on how do we find a very fine, refined career in the software industry. So that's all from my side. Probably we can have a Q&A at the end of this session. So it will be a joint exercise from both of us. So thank you very much for now.
Thank you so much, sir. I request Mr. Aniket Dhamwar sir to deliver our next session.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So I first start by apologizing for my voice. I have been in meetings for last 4 days, like 6 to 7 hours a day. So my voice is not exactly at its peak right now. And I'm actually, I joined this session at last minute, like yesterday night. So I'm also not good with the slides, so I will just skip the slides. I will do the talking. So Saurav has talked about a lot of ideas about the business, like how can you start a business and what do you need to start a business. But I will tell you a story about myself, how I started my career right from this college itself, and how we started a company together and what we are planning to do for the next couple of years. Okay. So me and Saurabh, we were classmates here, and we were students here from 2011 till 2012. So we passed out around 2012, and I remember vividly that during our days, like, our college lectures were like we were in the mechanical maintenance department. So our class strength was around like 180 students, and a lot of time what happened was that a lot of other students were mainly doing CET or JEE preparation, and our classrooms were empty a lot of times. But we were like basically me, Saurabh, and one of our friend called Vishal. He is currently a government engineer at Mahagenco, Nashik. So we three were the only few students who were regular at the classes, and we believed that the college education is important than any other competitive exams or whatever you are doing with your career. And what we learned during our days was that whenever you are thinking about building something big, it generally starts from something small. And I will just give you a small example here. So there was a problem called Y2K. which was basically after 2000, the clocks of your computers won't work correctly. And the issue was that basically you know about the programming languages, right? I assume everybody has some basic understanding of the programming languages. So what happened during that issue was that all the clocks in the legacy systems were designed using 32-bit integer. And the number that can be represented using 32-bit integer is 2 raised to 32. And the start point was some like 1900s. So from that time, the clock started ticking, and every second from that point onwards was getting counted in that variable. And what was going to happen after 2000 was that that particular variable would basically run out of the range, and it won't be able to represent the correct number of seconds passed from to 1900s. So to fix this issue, basically, the team from I think Infosys, there are like a couple of thousand engineers who were working on this to like resolve this issue. They had to port all the legacy code from 32-bit signed integer to unsigned 64-bit integer, which can represent like a huge number of seconds, basically. So the basic crux of the problem was that the original design did not take into the account of the longevity of this particular product, like the software product. This industry, I think, started from 1950s around the World War II. So this is actually a pretty new industry, the computer science thing. All other branches of the science are like from the 2000 years old, almost like some are even pre BCE. So this is the basic issue. So whenever you are learning thing, you should ensure that what you are learning, and you should understand that particular concept in depth, so that you will never know like what things you will require in future, which will be based on the knowledge that you are learning now. So like all the points that Saurabh sir told you are right, but they will come into the picture after you have the knowledge required to do some kind of a startup, right? And the first thing that you should always focus on is the right knowledge of the area where you want to do a startup. And that knowledge can be a very primitive knowledge, but it is said that the things are not like things are simple, just don't make them any simpler. There is no such thing as a simpler thing. There is only simple things, but the knowledge that is required to understand those things can be complex. And you should always try to find a root cause of any issue that you come across, and you should not just like Google for everything. Even if you do Google, you should understand like, what are the steps that are written there, and what each individual steps mean actually. So a lot of the times in our college also, the other fellow students used to solve the problems, mathematical problems, and they used to follow certain kind of steps. Like we have certain formulas, right? Shortcut formulas. And people used to solve the problems using those shortcut formulas, but they did not know where those formulas came around. So what is the exact proof of those formulas? And I think that is something that you should need to focus on earlier in your career. Like at this point, you are still in a learning phase. So it is of utmost importance that you try to make a point to yourself that you understand each and every individual thing to its basic component. So that is about how should you approach about your learning and stuff. And when you find a specific, let's say, a specific problem space where you want to make your career on, let's just say in this case it's a smart home thing or an IoT thing, then you should also learn about, like, even if you are from a software background, you should learn about what are the hardware components that are involved. And going forward, like if you are aware about the global state of the affairs, that the global warming is the next big challenge that we will be facing in this particular century, then you should think about like whatever software that you are currently writing, is it efficient? Because if it is not, then it is probably generating some kind of a heat in some kind of a data center, and that may contribute to the global warming. So you should always insisting on writing your software efficiently, and that can only be achieved if you know what you are writing for. So you should know your hardware and you should know your software. And another thing is that basically all the smart technologies, the technologies always like come and go. Basically, there is always a new technology on the horizon from 5 months time frame or a 1 year's time frame. So you should always create a habit to learn new things. So as like I have passed out like almost 4 years now, like post college, but I still try to learn about new technologies that come into the market, and not just the new technologies. There are like some old things as well which were not applicable maybe 10 years back, but now they are more relevant. So I have a book which is written in 1889. It is a high school mathematical book, and it roughly costs around 13,000. But the first chapter of that book has an exercise which talks about a computational device which can do the computations where the number of digits in the number are around 20 plus digits. And at that time, we did not have even the calculators to do this kind of computation. And even today's computers also don't do that kind of computations very efficiently. So basically, you need to dig deep whenever you are studying, and then you need to implement those ideas in your product so that your product is efficient. Because as the time progresses, there is something called like Moore's law, which talks about the hardware getting faster and faster every 2 years. But the thing about software industry is that the software is actually getting slower and slower because people don't think about their software very critically, and that is why like even if you have a faster hardware and if you don't improve your software, your entire product will run faster 2 years from now, but it will generate more heat. It will drive the global warming, and you won't get a green solution, and you won't have a sustainable solution going forward. So whenever you are thinking about any idea, try to map it to these long-term solution use cases where your idea is applicable now and it will be also applicable from 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line or 50 years down the line. Then you can make a sense out of your business plan where you will say like, okay, for first 5 years, it's fine for me to lose the money. And just like Saurabh said, Amazon actually started in 1994, and after it started, even till 2014, it was losing money. It was not generating even $1 profit on its business. But they had a long-term vision. They knew that if we build an infrastructure, the money aspect can come later. So they believed in a cash flow economy where you get the revenue and you again invest that revenue into your product itself. So that even the Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, who is the world's richest billionaire, only takes $80,000 salary. And that is even far less than what I earn at the Amazon. So that is the commitment that they have at their leadership. And I will talk about a couple of leadership principles also. Like Saurabh already talked about lot of the stuff, and you need to digest all that. But I will just give you a couple of points. Like the first principle that I personally believe is very important is about the customer obsession. And that principle, what it talks about is that first you should always understand your customer, like what customer needs. Let's say you have an idea, it's a great idea, but that particular idea does not map to any customer use case. Then there is no use of implementing that idea, and you will not generate money, and you will basically not able to sustain your business going forward. So there is a process that we follow in Amazon that is called working backwards process. So whenever we come up with an idea, first we write a PRFAQ, which is called a public facing press release document, that whenever you might see a new product coming out, you will first see some kind of a video of that product, right? Introducing its features, what it does, what it doesn't. So Amazon follows this methodology where at the start of your idea, you should write a document of this press release, imagining that you are reading this particular document to the customer announcing your product. So your idea should be very clear at the start. You should focus on what this particular idea will deliver to the customer, so that you can understand what value it will add to the customer's life or the experience, basically. And that is what basically the customer obsession principle talks about. And another principle that I think that you should start embodying in yourself is the ownership principle, which talks about like you have to take the responsibility for all the things that you are going to do. So what generally I see happening around in the normal IT industry is that whenever a particular engineer gets assigned a particular task, he talks with his manager, okay, now I will only work on this for this much amount of time. I am only getting paid for this much amount of time. If I don't get time, this might not finish. And he doesn't care about what this particular problem like solves which particular customer use case, what are the benefits that customer will get from this, or what the company, what is the outcome for the company for this particular problem, to solve this particular problem. And because these like engineers don't have that kind of ownership sense, a lot of companies tend to be very inefficient with their engineering efforts. And just to put that into the perspective, like the GST software that we have, that the government rolled out, is purchased from Infosys, and it costs around 35,000 crores. And if you look at the entire software, and if you do your due diligence correctly, then the entire project cost should be around few hundred crores and not few thousand crores. So that is there because the engineers are not acting efficiently, the organization is not acting efficiently, and this is causing people like us, the regular taxpayers, money to implement these products. So whenever you are trying to figure out a product for the customer, you should think about all these aspects like frugality, using minimum amount of resources but still delivering the quality product. And that will be ensured only when you have the in-depth knowledge of that particular area, and you are trying to learn new things that are coming around. Like a lot of products that are there in the market today are developed 20 years back. That was the case for the company that I was working earlier, Veritas, where I was basically updating a product which was written in 1995. That is the birth year for me, basically, me and Saurabh. So it was a very legacy product. And to maintain such products and to keep using the older technology only has a cost to the company, and at the end has a cost to the customer. So whenever you are trying to do anything new, try to keep yourself updated as you go forward. Just not, don't be very rigid and stick to whatever you know right now, and try to learn all the things that are out there. I think we are already running out of time. We are 20 minutes over. So at this point, I would like to have some questions if you have any. Otherwise, we can move into a small demo session. Anybody can raise their hands if they have any questions or any comments to add to what we are discussing right now. Even the faculty members can ask the questions. That is fine. And I think Principal Dr. Zadav sir has ensured us that we can have these discussions continued going forward. So we will be taking few of the on-hands, basically practical sessions in the labs. So if you have any questions about these topics as well, you can currently note them down, and we can discuss it in the future sessions.
कोणाला काही क्वेश्चन्स असतील तर तुम्ही विचारू शकता सरांना. ऑनलाइन आणि ऑफलाइन मोड मध्ये जे विद्यार्थी आहेत ॲज वेल ॲज फॅकल्टीज काही क्वेरीज असतील तरी तुम्ही सरांना विचारू शकता.
And a question.
ऑनलाइन मोड मध्ये तुम्ही चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये सुद्धा तुमचे क्वेश्चन्स टाकू शकता.
प्रश्न या पर्टिक्युलर टॉपिक बद्दल असायला हवे असे काही नाहीये. तुम्ही इन जनरल सॉफ्टवेअर डोमेन मधले तुमचे क्वेश्चन्स असतील, काही क्वेरीज असतील तरी विचारू शकता फ्रॉम द इंडस्ट्री स्टँडपॉइंट.
मोस्टली आमच्याकडे जे काही आता विद्यार्थी इन्व्हॉल्व झालेले आहेत त्या वर्कशॉपला, ते मोस्टली बीसीएसच्या रिलेटेड म्हणजे सॉफ्टवेअर जे आहे हाऊ टू दे विल डेव्हलप लाईक Amazon सिस्टीम.
ओके.
त्यांना जर बिझनेस करायचा असेल मोस्टली सॉफ्टवेअर रिलेटेड आहे. अशा केसमध्ये त्यांना जर कुठलाही बिझनेस करायचा असेल, तर Amazon जसं बिझनेस करते, तर आता यांना वाटलं की बाबा सातारशी रिलेटेड आम्हाला हे करायचं, आपल्याकडे ती सिस्टीम नाही सातारा.
Yes. So basically the advantage, okay, I will repeat the question for the online audience. The question is, how can we start a business in Satara right now if we are a software person, right? So the main advantage of this industry is that, as Saurabh sir mentioned, like you don't need any like implementation, like cost for starting up your business. You only need a machine, that is maybe it may be a laptop or a desktop, and then you need a stable internet connection and electricity. Those are the only three things that you require to start a business. And there are like a lot of tools available online, and I find it like very amusing that we don't teach this in the college stuff, that there is something called free and open source software which is freely available on the internet. And there are a couple of tools. I think it is also in the slide. If you can just go to the next slide. Okay. So the second tool on the first line is called Git, and it is basically a software version control tool. Where let's say we are a team of 10 developers and we are developing a particular software, then we obviously need to write some code, right? And let's just say all of us are writing a specific business logic which resides in a single file. Then what currently happens is that what we generally follow in traditionally is that we have the copy of our source code with 10 different people, and they write their code on their own on the 10 different copies basically, and those 10 copies are not in sync. So if I change the line number 1, the others won't change, see that particular change. And this is a tool called Git, which is available freely on like internet, which you can Google it, and you can also look for the tutorials for this, and you will able to get the idea like how thousands and thousands of engineers are writing the same program simultaneously from their home without having this kind of a synchronization issues. So this is a good tool to have in your tools box, basically, the Git. And there is a website called GitHub, which lists all the open source projects that are available free of cost for you to basically use. And the source code is open, so you can even go and read the implementations. And there are basically these packages are called repositories. So there are source code repositories which have the end-to-end product entirely present in that particular repository. Those are basically self-contained repositories. And if you have an idea which is on the similar lines of what that particular repository is targeting for, then you will have the basic framework ready for you to start your own idea. So basically, it will act as a Kickstarter for your own idea. You don't need to have like advanced cutting edge tools to get started with a software business today. You can even start this business from any rural village where you have the internet connectivity and the laptop. You just need to use the right tools that are already available freely in the market. And as we will conduct some future sessions, hands-on lab session, we will also hand out the list of all the resources that are freely available that the students can use, and that will be a pretty good booster for their kickstarting their careers in software business. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can have the demo session. We are on. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Now I will just demo the small set, give you the glimpse of the future. So this is a basically a product called so this is basically a product called Echo, Alexa Echo. It is a smart speaker. It has all all the functionalities of any normal speaker that you have in your house. It is also, you can also play the music with your Bluetooth connected device from the speaker. It also has a Wi-Fi connectivity, and also there is something called Alexa, which is a virtual smart assistant, which is there in this speaker. So if you speak to this Alexa in the speaker, it will respond you back with the answer to your question. And then there are like a lot of stuff that you can do with this device. We demoed a couple of things in the principal schedule, but we will be doing this in our hands-on session. But I will just give a brief idea. Let's say we are conducting one session here, and everybody is still yet to come to this particular hall, and still we will switch on all the lights. So we are consuming a lot of electricity for this. So it would be nice to have a mechanism where if somebody enters into a building, then only a light should be turned on. So those kind of functionalities can be enabled by these voice-assisted smart AI speakers. So let's say if I have this speaker in a particular room, I can tell that speaker to turn off a specific light. Or in my mobile, I have the application where I am not in this room, but I know somebody will be entering in this room. Then I can speak on the mobile and then the light will be turned on. And that can be called as the first phase implementation of a smart conference. The next step can be where there are no speakers in the room. There are only some kind of sensors which are looking for the activity inside the conference hall. And if somebody enters through a door, then only that particular first light will turn on. If he chooses to sit there, only that one light should be on. Other lights should not be on. So these kind of use cases that you can start thinking about, and these are not there in the market yet, and the availability is very low and the prices are very high. And we, the Indians, are in a better position where we have lots of resources, and the one thing that is required is a lot of manpower, or we can say brain power, and we have that in abundance. And instead of us thinking about like a future in masters or doing some study in US or any other like other countries, you can start thinking about these use cases, because these use cases are applicable to the India as well as the global market. And the advantage here is that you can always create a product which is 10 times more cheaper and efficient than whatever is there available in the Western markets. So currently, what we are trying as part of our Industry 4.0 is that all the machinery and equipment that are there in the manufacturing facilities around Satara, Kolhapur, and Sangli region, all those machines are basically, most of them are imported from the foreign countries. But they still charge a lot amount of money to provide some kind of metrics around them on the website or phone dashboard. So we are preparing a product which is 10 times cheaper than what is available in the market, but still it is more efficient and more productive than what is there in the market. And we will be basically prototyping few of the stuff in the college itself, so that the students will have the first hand experience of what is there, what is on the horizon, and what can be achieved with all these smart products going forward. Yeah, okay. So
for this device, we have it in house.
Yeah, so this is a very general device. This can act as your entertainment system. So this can play music from whatever website you can say, like Gaana, Saavn, or whatever that is out there. You can play music from that. It can also tell stories about you. So currently there are like a couple of stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata. Then there are also services called like Audible, which provides you an audio book which you can listen. So there is like a lot of use cases that we can drive through this single device, and we are basically starting a project where we will be putting these devices in Satara, in people's home, like a single device in each room. And these devices can sync with each other, so that if we, let's say we have some function in our home and we play a particular song, then all of these devices can play the same song. And there are n number of use cases, and we are interested in basically grooming a talent from Satara. So anybody who is interested in participating in this kind of a development can register their name with the sir, and then we can discuss the future scope of the work going forward. Thank you all for your time. Maybe that's all for today's session, and I hope we will have such kind of future sessions, and which can be more hands-on kind of sessions, because talking from here and you listening from there doesn't make us any like this particular kind of sessions won't be any productive because you are very early in you are in a very early phase of your career, and you might have a lot of questions and you might be hesitant about asking them on this forum, but we can take this offline and we can have hands-on session in labs on a weekly basis with small teams, and then we can move forward with this. Whoever is interested in having a career in the software industry or in another information technology industry, and whoever has an idea and has a time to put into this, we will welcome you all with open hands. So please register your names with the sir, and we will definitely have more interactions on this.
Thank you, sir. Both of you have a very good informative session about the entrepreneur. To start off, we need money, sir. So, Saurabh sir gave very good information about the funding. And I conclude that, sir, if for a good entrepreneur, first believe in yourself. And for also need of good communication and also the good knowledge of funding. Sir, I want to say some quotes about Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. If you fail, never gives up, because FAIL means first attempt in learning. And so your journey, and yes, sir, your Amazon journey is very good, and your demo of Alexa Echo speaker is very good. And sir, for that, I want to say, if you want to shine like the sun, first burn like the sun. I think, sir, after listening your informative session or speech, all of the students think that they are an entrepreneur or become an entrepreneur. Thank you, sir. I request Mr. R.K. Wagmare, sir, which is in charge of Department of Computer Science Empire of the Yeshwantrao Institute of Science, to deliver a vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. BSc Computer Science entire, BO Software Development, Animation Science Department. या डिपार्टमेंटसाठी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप सेल डेव्हलपमेंट सेल ऑर्गनाइज आपला जो वन डे वर्कशॉप झाला, त्यामध्ये एंटरप्रेन्योर्स इन कॅम्पस हा जो इंटरॅक्शन प्रोग्राम झाला. खरं तर म्हणजे मी पाहुणे म्हणणार नाही, खरं तर आपल्या घरातलेच एक कोणीतरी सिनियर फॅकल्टी किंवा सिनियर मेंबर्स आपल्याला इथे अवेलेबल झाले, आणि म्हणजे त्यांचं बॅकग्राऊंड जे जरी इंजिनिअरिंगचं जरी असलं तरी आमच्या मुलांसाठी ते इन्स्पायर असेल. पण आमच्या कार्यक्रमामध्ये जो काही आपला मोटो होता, आम्हाला सर आमचे जे सिलेबस आम्ही आता मॉडिफाय केलेत त्याच्यामध्ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेव्हलपमेंट नावाचं एक सेपरेट कोर्सेस आपण रन करतोय, ज्यामध्ये थर्ड इयरचे जे आता लास्ट सेमिस्टर आहे, 6वी सेमिस्टर ज्यामध्ये म्हणतो आम्ही, तर त्यामध्ये आम्ही एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हा एक पेपरच इंट्रोड्यूस केला आहे की जेणेकरून त्यांना करिअरमध्ये आता म्हणजे आता सिलेबस जर आपण पाहिले मागचे किंवा आपले सिलेबस पाहिले तर आपल्याला स्टार्टअप हे समजायला आता म्हणजे बराच वेळ गेला. पण ह्यांची एक चांगली गोष्ट म्हणजे की आपल्या सिलेबस ऑटोनॉमस स्ट्रक्चरमुळे किंवा जे कोणी अथॉरिटीज आहेत त्यांच्यामुळे आम्हाला एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हा एक पेपर आम्हाला घेता येतोय, आणि मुलांना खरं तर हे खूप छान इंटरॅक्शन झालं की ज्यामध्ये आपल्याला एक रिअल हिरोज म्हणतो आपण ज्याला, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स की ज्यांनी स्वतःचा बिझनेस इथून आपल्याच कुठेतरी बेंचवरनं बसून त्यांची स्वतःची कंपनी इस्टॅब्लिश करण्यापर्यंत जो काही त्यांना मी सक्सेस स्टोरी म्हणेन त्याला, आमच्या त्या फील्डमध्ये मी त्यांना सक्सेस स्टोरीज आपण सांगतो जशा छोट्या गोष्टी, तसे सक्सेस स्टोरीज तुमच्या समोर रिअल लाईफमध्ये जर आल्या आणि त्यांनी आपल्याला जर त्यांचे एक्सपिरियन्स शेअर केले तर ते खूप छान पद्धतीने इंटरॅक्शन होतं असं मला तरी वाटतं. कारण ॲज अ टीचर जरी असेल तर ह्या गोष्टी खूप महत्त्वाच्या आहेत आपल्या लाईफमध्ये, कारण आपण जेव्हा इथून बाहेर पडणार आहोत तेव्हा आपल्याला जर आता म्हणजे कोविड सेशन आहे किंवा आपल्याला बाहेर कुठे जॉब मिळेल न मिळेल माहिती नाही किंवा बरेच स्ट्रगल आहेत, सरांनी कदाचित जास्त स्ट्रगल घेतले असतील तर ते सक्सेस झाले त्याचा अर्थ. पण आपण जर आता घरी बसूनच नुसतं राहिलं तर आपल्याकडे जे आयडियाज आहेत, सरांनी बऱ्याच गोष्टीवरती कॉन्सन्ट्रेट केलं, ज्यामध्ये आता मी काही ते परत रिपीट नाही करत, पण मला जे आवडलं ते नक्कीच शेअर करायला आवडेल की सरांनी ज्या काही पहिली गोष्ट सांगितली मला वुमन हिरो, खूप छान गोष्ट आहेत. कारण आपण स्वतःला म्हणजे आता मार्केटमध्ये जर म्हणता किंवा जॉबसाठी जरी तुम्ही म्हणत असाल तरी स्वतःला रिप्रेझेंट करणं, म्हणजे आम्ही थोडंसं बघतो कदाचित प्रॅक्टिकल सेशन घेताना आम्ही जेव्हा त्यांचे ओरल्स घेतो किंवा काही विचारायला जातो, नाही म्हणजे आम्हाला काही येतच नाही असं जेव्हा रिएक्ट होतं तेव्हा मग प्रश्न पडतो की मग कंपनीमध्ये गेल्यानंतर मग काय, म्हणजे हा मोठा प्रश्न खरं तर त्यांना पण असेल कदाचित. पण जर ते ह्या फेजला तयार नसतील तर आता नुसतंच इथे येऊन बसून म्हणजे ह्या फेज मधून एक जरी सक्सेस स्टोरी झाली, म्हणजे सरांनी सकाळी जसं सांगितलं, देशपांडे सर असतील किंवा जाधव सर असतील, ते जसं सांगतात की ह्या काही आपण जे काही ऑर्गनाईज करतो त्याच्यामधून एक जरी अजून कोणीतरी तयार झालं आणि त्यांचे जर इन्फोडेक्स सोल्युशन्स तयार झाली तर डेफिनेटली एक चांगली गोष्ट असेल. म्हणजे तुम्ही जे काही तुमचे ऍप्लिकेशन डेमॉन्स्ट्रेशन दाखवले किंवा तुमचे जे काही जो काही पाथ दाखवला आम्हाला, तुमच्या इंडस्ट्रीज बद्दल आम्हाला काय सांगितलं, खरं तर हा सिलेबसचा भाग म्हणून काही कंपल्सरी झाला असेल काही मुलांना, पण हे खरंच छान गोष्टी असतात की जे आपण ऐकतो. म्हणजे आम्ही दररोजच तुम्हाला काहीतरी सांगत असतो किंवा ऐकवत असतो, रे हे करा हे करा, पण जेव्हा सौरभ सरांसारखे किंवा अनिकेत सरांसारखे कोणीतरी येतात आपल्यापैकी आणि ते सांगतात की अरे हे करा, तेव्हा ते रियालिटी असतं. म्हणजे सिलेबस म्हणून आपण सांगतोच आम्ही दररोज, कदाचित तुम्ही बोर होत असाल त्याला, पण ह्या गोष्टी महत्वाच्या आहेत कारण इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये हे गरजेचं आहे. तुम्हाला जर त्याच्यामध्ये जायचं असेल आणि आजचा सेशन जो काही ऑर्गनाईज केला त्यामध्ये बीटी जाधव सरांचं पण मी आभार व्यक्त करतो की त्यांनी आम्हाला हे ऑनलाईन सेशन ऑफलाईन सेशन मध्ये कन्वर्ट करायला सांगितलं. आणि ठीक आहे, काय हरकत नाही, 30 असतील 20 असतील, पण त्यांच्यापर्यंत जास्त प्रमाणात हे आपण सांगू शकलो. आणि ऑनलाईन मोडमध्ये सुद्धा जवळपास 100 पेक्षा जास्त मुलं होते. आता सेशन आपलं संपत आलं त्यामुळे जात आहेत ते, पण आपण 150 ते 200 मुलांच्या पर्यंत पोहोचलो आणि त्यांना आपला जो काही सेशन झाला, जाधव सरांचं विशेष मी आभार व्यक्त करेन. त्याच व्यतिरिक्त वि.वाय. देशपांडे सर, व्हाईस प्रिन्सिपल सर पण इथे आले, त्यांनी पण वेळात वेळ काढून आपल्याला इथे त्यांचा जो काही सेशन गायडन्स होता तो तिथे अवेलेबल करून दिला. त्यानंतर ईडी सेलचे पी.व्ही. चव्हाण सर होते, त्यांनी ह्या सेशनसाठी सौरभ सर आणि अनिकेत सर जेव्हा त्यांच्याशी कॉन्टॅक्ट झाला त्यांनी पण बहुतेक 1-2 दिवसातच बहुतेक ते तयार झाले कॉलेजमध्ये यायला, कारण आवडतं, म्हणजे मी पण इथला विद्यार्थी आहे आणि मला आवडतं इथं शिकवायला. तर त्या पद्धतीने त्यांनी वेळात वेळ काढून आजचा पूर्ण दिवस, म्हणजे पूर्ण दिवस म्हणतो मी, कारण त्यांना इथून पुढे सुद्धा त्या गोष्टीमधून बाहेर पडायला वेळ लागणार आहे. तर पूर्ण दिवस इथे आपल्याला त्यांनी जो काही सेशन घेतला त्याबद्दल मी त्यांचे आभार व्यक्त करतो. आणि सगळे जे आमचे डिपार्टमेंट्स आहेत त्यामध्ये अँकर्समधून मोरे मॅडम, पवार मॅडम इथे आहेत, टोके सर ज्यांनी ऑनलाईन सेशन्स आहेत ते ऑर्गनाईज करायला आम्हाला मदत केली. आमचे सगळे डिपार्टमेंटचे फॅकल्टी पण इथे उपस्थित आहेत. आणि आमचे 4 डिपार्टमेंट, ज्याला मी स्कूल ऑफ कॉम्प्युटर सायन्स असं म्हणतोय, हे 4 डिपार्टमेंटचे इन्चार्ज आणि आम्हाला फॅकल्टी किंवा त्यांचे स्टुडंट्स इथे उपलब्ध आपल्याला झाले, त्याच्याबद्दल त्या सर्वांचा आभार व्यक्त करतो. आणि मला वाटतं इथेच हा सेशन संपला नाही असं मला वाटतं, कारण हे जे काही आपण त्यांच्याकडनं घेतलं ते कुठेतरी ऍप्लिकेबल करण्याइतपत आपली पण कॅपॅबिलिटी असली पाहिजे. त्यांची जर अजून काही मदत लागत असेल आपल्याला, तुमच्याकडे जर काही आयडियाज असतील, कारण एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हे आता आपल्याला पूर्ण सेमिस्टर मध्ये लागवायचं आहे. कदाचित शिंदे सर ते YC-CIII मध्ये ते एंटरप्रेन्योरशिपचं काम करतात किंवा बघतात, तर त्यांच्या माध्यमातून सुद्धा आपल्याला ह्या गोष्टी जे काय आहेत त्या ह्या संपलेल्या नाही. म्हणजे आजचं सेशन करायची ती बिगिनिंग असेल. त्यांनी जे काही सांगितलं आपल्याला, जे काही सांगितलेल्या गोष्टी आहेत ती ही बिगिनिंग आहे तुमच्यासाठी. आणि याच्यामधून एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप म्हणून जे काही आपल्याला 3rd इयर मध्ये जे काही शिकायचं आहे ते हेच आहे. आपण सिलेबस म्हणून काहीतरी डिस्कस करू, ते वाचू, MCQ येतील 5, त्यातले 2 बरोबर येतील, 2 मार्क मिळतील, पास होऊ. बहुतेक त्यात ऑनलाईन मोडमध्ये आपल्याला सवय झाली पास होण्याची असले. तर त्या गोष्टी त्या बाजूला सर्व, कारण हे खरं आपला सिलेबस आहे असं मला वाटतं, कारण हेच आपल्याला शिकणं गरजेचं आहे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेव्हलपमेंटमध्ये. आणि जेव्हा तुमच्या समोर अजून काही सक्सेस स्टोरीज येतील, म्हणजे बहुतेक सरांच्या माध्यमातून अजून पण त्यांचे जर कोणी असतील मित्र किंवा त्यांचे म्हणजे ग्रुप असतात बऱ्यापैकी, तर आपण त्यांच्याशी पण कॉन्टॅक्ट करू, जेणेकरून तुमच्यासमोर अजून चांगले त्यांना जर कधी परत वेळ मिळाला तरी पण अजून एखादा सेशन आपण त्यांना थोडंसं इंटरप्रिनरशिप मध्ये कदाचित बाहेर पडताना अजून त्यांना जर काही गरज झाली, म्हणजे एक गोष्ट मला आवडली की जे फंड्स अवेलेबल होतात आपल्यासाठी त्याच्याबद्दल आपल्याला कसं करायचं किंवा कशा पद्धतीने त्यांना पुढे फेस करावं लागेल, प्रॉब्लेम्स तिथे काय असतात हे जर त्यांना आपण नंतर सांगितलं तरी म्हणजे ते आता त्या गोष्टीला प्रिपेअर नाहीत, पण थोडंसं जरी त्यांना ते म्हणजे आपण म्हणतो की थोडक्यात ओळख जरी त्यांची झाली, तसं तुम्ही पंतप्रधान योजनाबद्दल सांगितलं, रोजगार माहितीसाठी सांगितलं, तसं त्यांना अजून आपण कदाचित ते पण आपण नंतर शेअर करू त्यांच्याशी, कारण त्यांच्यापैकी एक जरी तिथून पुढे गेला, आयडियाज आहेत, YC चा आपल्याला सपोर्ट आहे, त्यामुळे या गोष्टी खरं तर आजचा जो काही वर्कशॉप झाला तर हा सक्सेस झाला असं म्हणायला काही हरकत नाही, कारण याच्यातून आपण बरंच काही शिकलो आणि सगळ्यांचे मी आभार व्यक्त करतो की मला पण इथे थोडीशी संधी मिळाली. तर मी सगळ्यांच्या सरांच्या आपण इथे सेशन थांबूया आणि तुमच्या काही क्वेरीज असतील किंवा डाऊट्स असतील तर तुम्ही इंटरॅक्शन करा किंवा अजून काही डाऊट असतील तर आमच्याकडे पोहोचवा आणि सरांच्याकडे ते फॉरवर्ड करून त्याच्या माध्यमातून आपण तुमच्याशी ते सांगण्याचा प्रयत्न करू. थँक्यू वन अँड ऑल. थँक्यू सर.
Thank you, sir. With the permission of President, I declare the program is over.